Hello, all you patrons. Welcome to another pre-show.
Welcome, welcome, and thrice welcome. Halloween is over, ladies and gentlemen. You may freely take off the mask. Oh, don't they look wonderful?
They look great.
Yes, they all look wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, you must be getting ready for Thanksgiving. Halloween is behind us, but before Halloween, guess what's coming up this week?
Before Halloween?
I mean, sorry, after Halloween,
Oh.
before Thanksgiving, this week.
Um let's see.
We'll
I
be
mean,
seeing this on my birthday, but that's not the important day.
oh, okay. I thought we were going to do that thing.
No, we'll save that for the real show. No, yes, it is true, ladies and gentlemen, that the day after you see this will be my 61st birthday, but that's not the big festivity of this upcoming week.
Tell us, Charles.
November the 11th, St. Martin's Day, Martinmas, on the one hand. On the other hand, it is Armistice Day, it is Veterans Day, it is Remembrance Day. The 11th hour of the 11th minute of the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. So when Thursday comes along, precisely at 11 a.m., 2 minutes silence, ladies and gentlemen. The 11th hour, 2 minutes silence in honor of the dead of the Great War. Wear your red poppy. Actually, I should be doing that.
Yeah, I was going to say, where's your
Well, the
button?
problem, you know, ladies and gentlemen, my interlocutor is correct. Give me just a moment. I shall return.
Okay.
Well, you see, I'm wearing German Trachten, which doesn't really have a place to put it, so I'll have to get a new jacket. But I'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen, showing my badge of remembrance and urging you to pick up your red poppies from the VFW, the American Legion, the Royal British Legion, the Royal Canadian Legion, the Return Services League, the South African Legion, or whatever veterans organization is near you. Get your red poppy if you're in the Anglosphere, your Bleuet de France, your blue cornflower if you're in a French speaking land. And for all of our German friends, you want the blue forget me not, the Vergiss mich nicht. Vergiss mich nicht. The forget me not. Those are the three great flowers of remembrance of our honored dead in the Great War. So give me a sec and I shall return. All right.
Voila.
You see, ladies and gentlemen, the now you may wonder, or maybe you don't, where it is that the poppy comes from in the English-speaking world, and the answer is in a poem by John McCrae called "In Flanders Fields," and it goes like this: In Flanders fields the poppies blow between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place. And in the sky, the lark, still bravely singing, flies scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields.
Hmm.
It was from that poem that the poppy became the great remembrance flower.
Interesting.
Uh, yeah, yeah, it's quite something. There's another poem that is usually read called "For the Fallen" by Lawrence Binyon, and it usually at remembrance services around the globe. Um, they usually just read the one stanza. They shall not grow old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. The war to end all wars, the Great War. The European Civil War, really, that thrust our globe and our civilization into a darkness from which it has yet to emerge. There's the famous scene in August of 1914 when Lord Grey, Sir Edward Grey, rather, the British Foreign Minister, was watching the street lamps being put out in Whitehall. And he said, "The lights are going out all over Europe. We shall not see them lit again in our time." Nor have they been. So remember the dead of the Great War, ladies and gentlemen, the unknown soldiers in Vienna and Paris, Washington and London, all over the world, the tomb of the unknown soldier. So, what else we got?
All right, questions. We've got plenty of questions, in-depth questions from the likes of Giovanni.
Oh, but do we have answers? That's the question. There may be questions, but are there answers to those questions? That's the whole point of this show.
Well, if there's no answers, there's no money.
That I highly suspect that answers are forthcoming. That would be my guess. I would definitely suspect a perfect flow of answers. You got the money, I got the time. Not to sound mercenary, ladies and gentlemen. Why should I be different from our owners? What do we have? What does Giovanni want to know?
He is saying he wonders what exactly are the minor orders. I know that there are 4 minor orders: porter, lector, exorcist, and acolyte. I also know that Pope St. Paul VI suppressed these minor orders and replaced them with 2 things. Not much is commonly known about the minor orders today. Then there is also one major order of subdeacon. Are the 5 orders technically considered sacramental since they aren't required for the sacrament of holy orders, nor are they officially called sacramental ordinations, if I'm correct? What function did each minor order and the subdiaconate have in the past, and what function do they have today? He's got more questions, but I'll stagger these out one at a time.
All right. Well, firstly, the minor orders were the following. There was porter or ostiarius, lector or reader, exorcist or exorcist, acolyte or acolyte, subdeacon or subdeacon, deacon and priest. Those were the orders. The first 4 were the minor orders. The subdiaconate was considered one of the major orders. Now, originally, each of these were permanent jobs. In other words, now the 4 minor orders are sacramentals. They're not sacramental themselves, but they are sacramentals. Like the religious life. When you're tonsured and you go into a religious order.
Can you go into this a little bit? Because I think perhaps a lot of people are confused the way I am right now, which is, how can exorcist be a minor order? I mean, don't you have to be a priest to have the powers?
You do now, but ordained exorcists, basically, remember what I said, each of these were full-time jobs. So the ostiarius, once he was ordained an ostiarius, he spent the rest of his life, well, for one thing, unless you were ordained at least to the minor order of ostiarius, of porter, you couldn't, for instance, go into the sanctuary. And your job as Asterius was to take care of the door, hence the name porter.
Yeah.
The ostium is another word for door. And you looked after the basic fabric of the church, and that was what you did. It was a full-time job. You were ordained to be an Asterius, and you stuck with it. Then you had the permanent lectorate, and the lectors read the epistle at Mass, and they did a few other things along those lines. The exorcist is exactly what it sounds like, and the exorcist not only performed exorcisms of the sort that you're thinking of, it was also their job to perform the exorcism at baptism. So there's a fly here, ladies and gentlemen, who is doing his best to annoy me. There's always one, probably an imp of the devil who doesn't want you to hear about the order of exorcist. But very often in the early church, if someone had a particular talent for it, they'd be ordained to the order of exorcist, and that's where they would stay. The acolyte assisted the priest at Mass, and that was all he did. He was an ordained acolyte. Now, the subdeacon might also read the epistle at Mass, and he did some other things in terms of the liturgical aspect of things. The deacon read the gospel and could baptize and do things like that. Now, the deacon, of course, and the subdeacon were part of the major orders. But as I say, these were sacramentals. You have them also, by the way, or their equivalents in the Eastern rites. And so it wasn't strictly ours. Now, what Paul VI did when he quote unquote suppressed them was to replace them with quote unquote ministries of lector and acolyte. Although it is possible to do the same for an exorcist if a diocese requests the creation of ordained exorcists who are just that and do nothing else.
Father Ripperger was talking about this a little bit, how all priests have the faculties of to be an exorcist, but they don't all have, I think the word was ministry.
They don't have the ministry.
And his reasoning was because priests are stupid.
Well, that's I'd certainly go along with that in any case.
Yeah.
But the thing was that over time, especially because, as you might have noticed, all of these orders encompassed different powers of the priesthood. So it's as though and eventually they just became stepping stones to the priesthood. You know, you might perform as a deacon liturgically while you were a deacon, but you wouldn't be a deacon for long. And of course, you had to take the tonsure when you entered into the orders to begin with, and that meant that you were subject to canon law and all sorts of other fun stuff. Now, in the traditional orders in the church today, the Fraternity of St. Peter, Christ the King, and various of the others so beloved of our current Holy Father, they do the old orders. They get ordained through those things. So when you see a priest of the fraternity or Christ the King or whatever, he has been successively an Asterius, a lector, an exorcist, and an acolyte, and a subdeacon, and a deacon. So he's gone through all that. The last permanent subdeacon I've heard of, well, there are two of them. One was Salazar of Portugal, and the other was Cardinal Antonelli, Pius IX's minister of Secretary of State, sort of his foreign minister. He too was a permanently ordained subdeacon. He never went any further. So they did They did exist, but they became increasingly uncommon. So Paul VI did what he did, as I say, but we still have them in. I believe we've also got them in the Ordinariate. I could be wrong, but I think so. And of course, some of the Eastern rites have them, so they're not gone completely. I don't know if there was really any pressing need to get rid of them, but of course, this was done by Paul VI in the 60s when everything had to be changed. We've got to put our fingers over everything. The idea was that we were living in a new world and everything had to be new. Or as Cardinal Sipich just put it, liturgical renewal, liturgical reform requires getting rid of the old mass.
Well, that's a little bit more direct. I appreciate his directness.
Yeah, well, Cardinal Sipich, as an elderly non-binary person, is in a position to be direct. I think that liturgical reform is impossible without getting rid of elderly non-binary persons directing the church.
Yeah. Reform should be done by the young, am I right?
Well, at least those of a particular masculine gender.
Okay, I'm going to do a gratuitous plug because we were talking a lot about exorcisms and that sort of stuff. One of the things that I think Father Ripperger is trying to encourage is for priests to sort of be of this mindset. You get that fly, Charles.
It's really annoying me.
You need a fly swatter.
I'll say.
But so yeah, I think Father Ripperger is trying to encourage priests to sort of have this mindset of their roles as expelling demons out of people, whether it be confession. So he came out with one of these prayer books, which is specifically designed for priests, called Minor Exorcisms and Deliverance Prayers, and in that it has a bunch of very powerful deliverance prayers that priests can say, where they invoke the authority of Christ. And a lot of people get it for their parish priest who might be interested in that. So your parish priest is that kind of person, it might be a really good Christmas gift for them.
Yeah, I mean, and if your parish priest is religious, that's great. What?
Yeah,
I think it's good when parish priests are religious, don't you?
Absolutely, that's the best kind.
Yeah, I like it when bishops are religious and cardinals, and I love it all when they've got some kind of faith. I've had a lot of experience with the other kind, so
yeah,
I'm not as impressed.
All right, so we've got even more questions on this from Giovanni. He says, "Why?" We'll go through these quickly. Why do these 5 orders exist, although our God established the diaconate, presbyterate, and the episcopate at the Last Supper? So you kind of,
No, they exist because the church needed them.
Yeah.
I mean, like the consecrated virgins and the consecrated widows, these were jobs that arose, and the church, dealt with them as she wished.
What are the major orders? I thought the subdeacon was a non-sacramental order, while the diaconate and priesthood are also considered major orders and are included in the sacrament of holy orders.
Well, yeah, you've come to a weird point, because it's true. It was always said the subdiaconate, the diaconate, and the priesthood were it, and the episcopate was simply the fulfillment of the priesthood. But I guess in order to keep the triune number, after Paul VI got rid of the subdiaconate, they sort of shifted to keep that triune thing going.
Why is the word ordained used for the minor orders in the subdiaconate, yet they don't involve the sacrament of holy orders?
Well, there are preparations for it, number one. Number two, there are particular offices in the church. And even today, when someone has been ordained to the ministries of lector and acolyte. They're still called ordained lectors and ordained acolytes. They're no longer in the lay state, having taken the tonsure. It's interesting to note, too, that in the coronations of the Holy Roman Emperor and the French king, there were prayers that were seen equivalent to conferring on them, in a sense, holy orders. As a result, when the Holy Roman Emperor was in Rome, if he went to the papal mass, he acted as the deacon. And if the King of France went there, he acted as a subdeacon.
I see. What do subdeacons even do? Do any dioceses today use any of the 5 orders?
Well, as I say, subdeacons read the epistle. They had some other liturgical roles. Man, I hate that thing. They had various liturgical roles, and they're still used by the minor orders are still used by the traditional orders of the church. Basically, if an order is dedicated to saying the Tridentine Mass, they will still use the minor orders.
And the final question from Giovanni is, what are the 2 things that Pope St. Paul VI replaced the 5 orders with?
He replaced them with the ministries of lector and acolyte.
Okay. All right. Question from Cal, who says, "Good day, Vincent and Charles. My question today pertains to the Native American inhabitants of the New World and their conversion to Catholicism over the last few centuries."
You mean they're having the beautiful religion of torture and sacrifice suppressed?
Yes.
Okay.
We all too often these days hear stories of Native Americans being subjugated by Spanish conquistadors who brought with them the foreign religion of Catholicism. As we well know, Catholicism in New Spain almost entirely supplanted the native pagan religions that were previously universal. This was the case even among the native inhabitants who largely converted to the faith in the Spanish-speaking areas of the New World. To counter the modern narrative that Catholics suppressed the natives' homegrown paganism with imperial force exclusively, can Charles give specific examples of Native Americans, or groups of them, who were happy to convert to Catholicism when presented with it? And would he please do so?
Sure.
It would seem odd to me that the faith would almost entirely supplant the native religions of the Americas without a large amount of genuine support from New World converts. Furthermore, why was the phenomenon of Native American conversion much less frequent in the Protestant inhabited areas of North America?
Well, I mean, firstly, your gut feeling is absolutely correct. Our Lady of Guadalupe appears in Mexico, and tons of people converted as a result of that. They were only too happy to get rid of the whole heart sacrifice thing. But you see, I can understand why that would be difficult for people of a culture that revels in murdering its children to understand that this would not be something people would like. Because, I mean, we love killing babies. We do. We enjoy it. Everybody from Nancy Pelosi to who's that other old hag? Anyway, all the double-mouthed people are on and on about how wonderful it is. So I can understand that that our modern opinion makers would feel a natural kinship with Aztec religion and with murderous blood sacrificial faiths. I can see that because they're into it now. But for normal sane people who even those who are purely of natural disposition, this would be considered disgusting and loathsome. And so what happened in the Americas, as happened wherever the faith went, was that people who were disgusted by the old gods were only too happy to get rid of them and take the new. Now, in terms of concrete examples, it's interesting that in the Northwest, when the missionaries came for the Sioux and the Flathead and people like that, they converted en masse, and there was no imperial army behind them. Quite the contrary. You had the U.S. Government trying to steal Catholic missions and give them to Protestants. But if you want to know the truth, read Black Elk Speaks Again. You know, he sums up pretty well what was wrong with their old religion and why he was so happy to come into the new. But of course, people like to ignore that because, they like to ignore that. As far as the Protestant groups go, there were very few attempts amongst the Protestants to convert the Indians. There weren't many, but there were a few. In Puritan New England, there were the attempts by John Eliot to convert the local Indians, and this had a little success. They formed villages of what were called praying Indians, but a lot of these got wiped out during King Philip's War, either by hostile tribes or by Puritans themselves who couldn't get their hands on the hostile tribes and took, what they could. But most of the Indians in New England today, in southern New England, who are the descendants of the Indians, are the descendants of those praying towns, those praying tribes. There was a concerted effort by the Anglicans among the Iroquois to a degree when they were still in New York, but very much so with those Iroquois who left for Canada after the Revolution. And it's interesting that one of the two chapels royal of the Queen that are outside England are amongst the Mohawk in Ontario. One of these has come over to the Ordinariate en masse. I know the chief of the tribe, and he's a member of the Ordinariate and also a fellow board member of the Canadian Royal Heritage Trust with me, Chief Maracle.
Wow, pretty cool.
Yeah. But of course, the media people and the academics, they don't really, actually, they would never go to the reservation, because they'd get their little rear ends kicked if they said Native American instead of Indian. And we know how little academic people don't like to get in touch with reality. It's so painful for them.
It is.
For some reason, I just flashed on the Crips running Antifa out of Long Beach. That was,
dude. Oh man, that was like the best thing that actually came out of COVID is that video. I think they took it down too, unfortunately, because I literally bookmarked it. I actually bookmarked it because whenever I was feeling down, I would go back to the video of the gangsters chasing.
Oh man, they just they Long Beach. Say you're sorry. Say you're sorry. I have never been so proud of the Long Beach Crips as I was that day.
Me too. Our great defender.
Yeah. Yeah, they just say you're sorry.
Oh man.
Little Antifa rear ends had to go fly, had to go bye-bye out of Long Beach.
Yeah, I don't the feeling in my chest, I was just so proud. I don't know why. It's just so I don't know. You just have to take matters into your own hands. The local communities came together.
That's right. Community watch. Officer Clancy would understand this. Sometimes your own got to look after your own. You don't have no time for no Antifa.
All right.
So it was great to see the little white children of privilege run off the plantation there. That was great.
Oh man.
The little twerps. They get so upset. They don't understand. Why do people react badly? Why do they when
Wow. So I actually have it bookmarked, and I just went to the bookmark, and so actually I was wrong. I guess they didn't take the video down. They suspended the account.
Oh, really?
That account is suspended. Yeah.
I can
Wow.
guess why.
Wow.
Runs against the narrative.
Wow.
But let me just see, just for fun, you got me wondering. Crips versus Antifa. Ah, there they go.
It's still on the internet. Now, once it's on the internet, it's hard to get it off the internet. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's oh, this is fun.
Oh, I see it. Oh, it's still there. It's still there.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. This is beautiful. Thank you for showing me this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. God bless them.
It's on Reddit. It's on, and yeah, so you guys can look it up if you want. It's beautiful. All right.
That is. Shout out to all you Long Beach Crips. You know who you are. You know who I'm talking about. I don't want to name names, but
all right. Gosh. You know these people, like when America turns into a monarchy, they're gonna be like the royal guard or something.
well, that's how a lot of this stuff got started. You remember what I did in Star Spangled Crown?
I am directly referencing that, the Hunters of the King.
Yeah, the Cazadores del Rey.
They're all in their garb, but you could tell what they are because the tattoos on their knuckles.
Clutching his marshal's baton.
All right. All right. Question from Patrick, who says, as a Roman Catholic who has limited experience assisting at Eastern Rite liturgies, I find myself unaware of most of their liturgical practices. I find myself particularly interested in the rites that have Old Church Slavonic as their mother tongue. Can you illuminate me to the best of your ability as to how this language is used in the liturgical life of the Russian and Ukrainian Catholic churches? Do they ever celebrate the liturgy in Slavonic, or is it only incorporated in certain parts? Also, as I know you are familiar with the Russian Rite, do they predominantly celebrate the liturgy of the old believers that was clung to by dissenters of Patriarchal Nikon's liturgical reforms in Moscow in the 17th century?
Well, I know that some do because I know that some groups of old believers have come back into reunion with Rome and they've kept theirs. The only Russian Rite parishes, though, that I'm directly familiar with are in Los Angeles, San Francisco, and New York, and they're pretty standard Byzantine. In terms of the use of Slavonic, that varies wildly. One of the big sources of contention in Ukraine right now, in the Ukrainian Catholic Church, is the use of Slavonic versus the use of Ukrainian, which is similar to Latin versus vernacular. In the Russian Orthodox Church, it's used almost exclusively, except outside of Russia. So Slavonic, Old Church Slavonic, or Stavroslav, as the French call it, is very much the same position as Latin. So depending on which jurisdiction you're in, you may never see it. You may just see the vernacular. You may see it used for certain hymns or prayers. You may see entire liturgies in Slavonic on certain holy days and certain particular celebrations. But it varies wildly. I'm afraid I can't give you rhyme or reason to it. There may be one, but I don't know it.
All right. Final question for the pre-show is from Vendée Radio. He says, I recently went on the official tour of the Hungarian Parliament in Budapest. The building which was magnificent, but the official tour guide was disappointing. She said that the Holy Crown was not St. Stephen's, thus not a relic, having been made later and symbolized the state rather than the kingdom. Could you recommend a good English language Catholic history of Hungary that would correct black legends such as these and the over-exaggeration of Habsburg oppression prior to the Masonic 1848 revolution. I actually have a different question. So that's actually St. Stephen's crown that they're lying about, and they're calling it something else?
Yeah. I mean, it was, shall we say, reformed from time to time, and it's been knocked around, damaged, and it's had things added to it. But at base, it's St. Stephen's crown.
Wow.
And it is the premier symbol of Hungarian nationhood. Well, unfortunately, I don't know any English language things I can recommend you to. What I can do is give you a couple of Hungarian websites, and recommend that you use Google Translate, which actually does very well with Hungarian. So, in terms of the crown itself, I want to recommend to you a site, Immercat, IMRKAT, Immercat, IMRKAT.hu / Cent Corona, SZENT, Cent Corona, KORONA, centcorona.html. And that will give you the best rundown on the Holy Crown itself. Now, in terms of Hungarian Habsburg history, I recommend you do another site. And again, I'm afraid that you're going to have to use the Google Translate, but it is called Regnum. So Regnum, you want to go to. It's got a whole library and everything. It's quite good. You want to go to Regnum Portal, REGNUMPORTAL, Regnum Portal, .hu, and that's a very, very good site in terms of. It's a very, very good site in terms of Hungarian history. Really, it's just very well done. And there's a I've got an interview here with a fellow called Andras Naj Chomor, CSOMOR, who's a Hungarian historian. There are a lot of new things coming out. Peter Judson, Pieter, Peter Judson, has written a new history of the Austrian Empire, and I recommend that very, very highly. Yeah, so I'm sorry I can't give you any better than that, but you know.
All right, that'll do it for the pre-show. Nice, decently sized one. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Stay tuned for the full episode. A lot more questions.